Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really happy and excited to host Rishi Rongala this evening for a masterclass on effortlessly embodying a coaching mindset. He's one person who I've always loved to have conversations with. Although we haven't had many conversations, our conversations have been very deep and impactful. It's not very often and very rare that you find someone who's a coach who impacts leaders and who also impacts everyone who he interacts with. So that's how he left me feeling in my very first conversation with him. And today, I think we've had 5 or 6 interactions. That's it. And you can imagine what kind of a human being he is. So that's one of the reasons that I've really decided to host him for this masterclass, because effortless is the key. When I interacted with him, and our conversations were always flowing very effortlessly. So a little bit about Rishi before I hand it over to him. Rishi works with leaders, and he works with them in the area of high performance and leadership transformation. He is the youngest professional coach to receive a PCC credential from the ICF, and he's currently on his MCC journey. He's someone who is a lifelong student of human behavior and potential and enables inspired leadership. And this is another area which struck a chord with me because I'm also a lifelong student of human behavior. So he works with the CXOs, senior leaders, and high performance individuals and organizations. And he helps them unlock extraordinary results from effortless high performance, flow, and well-being. He does this by enabling mastery over state of mind and state of being. The methodology is deep transformative coaching based on first principles. Rishi also coaches, mentors, and provides supervision for coaches on becoming more impactful. So let's welcome Rishi Rongala into this conversation. And I'm really, really excited that we're all here, 32 of us, and let's see what unfolds for us. Thank you so much, everyone. Rishi, over to you.
Thank you, Sunita. And thank you for being here, everyone. I hope you all received my little note to you earlier in the day about how to show up for the session. This is going to be slightly different. There is no presentation that I'm going to share, so that your full attention can be on yourselves rather than me and what I'm sharing. That's the intention. It's this session is all about you having an insight, and insight means that you look within and you see something that you haven't seen before. So for you to look within, I'd love for you to be relaxed and for you to understand that I'm not the most important person in this room today. You are individually for yourselves. So please take it in that stride and relax and go into a reflective space, because we're going to have a rather philosophical conversation today. And then I'm going to open it up for you, and they're going to have an interaction where you can bring in any questions or share any observations and thoughts. Cool. I made a lot of notes, some things that I want to share with you before we open the floor up. But as you're listening, I want to start off with sharing a distinction between 3 kinds of listening that you can bring to the conversation today. So let's say you're in college and you're listening to a professor teach you a new subject. We usually listen for information. It's something that we don't know that they know, and we are listening with the intent of receiving information. That's one kind of listening. It's not very helpful because you can get that information online. You can get that on Google, on ChatGPT. So don't listen to me for any information that you already do not know. I'm not going to give any of that. Second is listening for agreement and disagreement. So you listen and then you're comparing what I'm saying to what you already understand. And then you're either agreeing with me or not agreeing with me in your mind. Right? So don't listen for agreement and disagreement. It doesn't matter whether you agree or not. So that's not going to help you. The third way of listening is listening for insight. So whatever I'm saying, you're using that as a catalyst for you to see something that you haven't already seen inside yourself. It's like listening to a mathematics lecture where the professor is saying 2 plus 2 equals to 4, and your job is not to take in that information and memorize it. Your job is not to agree with him or disagree with him. Your job is to see for yourself how 2 plus 2 equals to 4. So you see and you understand for yourself how that is true. So that is the kind of listening I invite you to bring to this conversation today. And if you do that, I promise you, you will take away something very valuable for yourself. So a thumbs up if you understand what I'm talking about. Perfect. Seeing a few thumbs ups. Cool. I'm going to remind you again later in the conversation about this. This profession that we are in, it's a very noble profession. I think it's amongst the most noble professions in the world when we do it right, when we do it very ethically, when we are actually impactful enough in the work we are doing. It changes lives, and it changes lives of more people than we can imagine. I can recollect a conversation with a leader of a large international e-commerce firm. We had a coaching conversation, and as a result of that session, the performance appraisal process of the entire organization changed just because of one insight he had in one coaching session. And the way every employee, and they have thousands of employees, were rated was very different. Right? So never underestimate the impact of being an impactful coaches. And that's the whole point of this conversation, right? We want to deepen your impact. We just don't want to teach you the skill or the competency. But the competency, I'm sure your coach training institutes must have taught you a little bit about. So today is the place where you can actually embody it and feel what it feels like to embody a coaching mindset. And we're going to do it in a effortless way. Um, but saying that, because this is not a masterclass about the competency itself. It's a masterclass about being a coach. And somebody asked the question, what's the difference between embodying and being? There isn't much. Embodying is being, because you are embodied as a human being. You are embodied, you have a body, and you are being a human. So it's the same thing. You're existing in a body, right? You're using this body to interact with the world. So today is the time for you to actually be an impactful coach and notice what that evokes inside you. And we can have a conversation later about that. Now, if you're an expert in the ICF competencies, you are already credential coaches, you have a lot of experience coaching people. My request is put all of that aside for the next 1 hour. It doesn't matter. Today, I want you to show up just as a human being, not as a coach, not as a leader in an organization, just as a human being. That means all you have with you is your mind and your body. No titles, no awards, no recognition, nothing. Just show up as yourself, like how you would show up sipping a cup of coffee, watching a sunset, just as yourself, without any baggage. Now, I know most of you said effortless is a keyword. I'm going to clarify what I mean by effortless. Remember the last time you had this urge to stop whatever it is that you're doing and go use the restroom to pee. Recollect the last memory that you have of that. You're sitting at your desk, you're doing some work, or you're talking to somebody, and you have this sensation, this feeling, and you know that you need to go use the restroom. It's the most effortless thing for you to get up and go use the restroom. It takes a lot of effort to not do that. Now, is there work involved? Yes, there is work involved in getting up from your chair, opening the restroom door. There's work, but that work doesn't feel like effort. So effort is a psychological phenomenon rather than anything that you're actually doing. So how effortless that feels when there's a nature call and you're there to fulfill that. That effortless it can be to be a coach and to embody a coaching mindset. That's what I mean by effortless. Now, we need to notice where this effortlessness is coming from. And it's not coming from, oh, you need to develop your intuition and you need to engage in constant, learning and development. That's what the competency is, right? That doesn't sound like effortless. That sounds like a lot of effort. There's a better way of doing that. And let's notice what doesn't require effort. We notice that getting up to use the restroom doesn't require effort when you feel like it. What else does not require effort? How about this? Notice how you're breathing right now. Notice whether you're breathing in your chest or in your belly. Just don't do anything differently. Just notice. Notice how deep you're breathing, whether it's shallow, whether it's deep, whether it's fast, whether it's slow and relaxed. Just notice how your breathing is. Whatever it is that you're doing with your breath, that is pretty effortless, unless you try and change it. It's happening effortlessly, right? So breathing is effortless. If you try and breathe deeply, that takes a little bit of effort. The way it's happening is already effortless. So it's already effortless. That's the key word. However, it is that you're breathing right now, that's already effortless. So what else is effortless? What you did just now, the last minute, when I said notice how you're breathing, that noticing is effortless. It didn't take any effort for you to notice how your breathing is going on. So the ability to notice what's happening is effortless because it's already happening. You're not doing much there. You're just conscious of it. So these are two things that are already effortless in our lives by default, whether we acknowledge them or not. Noticing that breathing does not require effort and breathing does not require effort. Now, what does it mean? Why are we talking about breathing and noticing the breathing? Because when you're breathing, what it means is that there is life force inside you. You're alive, that's why you're breathing. So there is a life force that is living within you, and it does not take effort. And you are here because it is there. And because it does not take effort, it means your existence does not take effort at a very fundamental level. If you stop all the stories that you've been fed as a culture about you need to be this, you need to, I have a lot of friends who are graduates from these premier B schools, IEMs, and they're in this competitive spirit, right? They need to get that salary benchmark within the next 5 years, or they'll be left behind by their batchmates and all of that. If you put those stories aside, fundamentally your existence does not require effort because you are already existing. There is life within you that's already living. And when we say noticing does not require effort, noticing what? Noticing anything. You're noticing what I'm asking you to notice right now. When you're in a coaching session, you're noticing what the client is doing. When you travel to a new place, you're noticing the beauty and the variety of that new place. When you're sleeping, you're noticing whatever dreams that are happening in your mind. So I'm just talking about the simple capacity to be aware. That doesn't take effort because you're already always doing that 24/7, even while you're asleep. It's a fundamental function of being a human, being a sentient conscious being, because that is basically awareness. So if your existence does not require effort and your awareness does not require effort, and those two you already have and you're already using all the time, what does that tell you? Notice inside yourself how you're feeling in this moment as I'm talking about this. And I want to remind you this conversation is not about me. I want you to listen for insight, not about information or agreement. So see what you're seeing freshly within you. When you're saying, okay, my heart is beating without any effort, I'm not doing anything to make it beat. My lungs are breathing without any efforts. Everything that is life sustaining within me is happening effortlessly. And me noticing it is also happening effortlessly. As you acknowledge that, notice the feeling that arises. I'm doing it along with you. I'm not giving you theory. The feeling that I'm noticing is what I would call loving indifference. What I mean by that is there is a lot of love that is unattached to anything. That's not directed towards anything or anybody in particular. Just a pleasant sensation. And also indifference because it's a place where I don't really care how things turn out to be. Because I know that my existence is taken care of. It's effortless. I know that I can always be aware of whatever it is that is in front of me. That's also effortless. So I don't really care much. There's indifference, but it's not an arrogant, I don't care. It's a very loving, compassionate, I don't care. Imagine having this feeling and going into a coaching conversation. Imagine talking to a client and all you're feeling is just this and nothing else. What would that mean for you? What would that change for you? What would that change for your clients? Now, seeing what you're seeing now, ask yourself this question. Who do you need to be more impactful as a coach? Who do you need to be more impactful as a coach? I want you to sit with that question. See what's coming up for you. And whatever is coming up for you, that is the most useful thing for you in this moment. And if it's a question, go ahead and ask it. It's time to unmute yourselves. You can raise your little digital hand. It's an updated version of Zoom. So on the bottom, you'll see a small heart that's tilted. It says react. You can click on that, and there's a button called raise your hand. You can do that, and I'll call your name, and you can unmute yourself. You can share what you're noticing, or you can ask a question around it. And let's make it relevant for you. Who do you need to be as a coach to be more impactful, seeing what you're seeing right now? Yeah, Sudarshan.
I think a quick contribution to what you mentioned, Rishi, is a more relevant question to me at this point in time. It is, who do you not need to be in order to be impactful? So, because it's much beyond who you think you are. Like, it's just a little piece of thing that I would like to say, which is what is running in my mind now.
Who do you not need to be?
So, going a little deeper into this, we generally have the feeling that I am the doer, and things are happening to me, and we have this distinct identity of ourselves, which is something that's happened over how many every years of programming that's happened to us. So if you kind of shed that baggage out, you become far more potent, you become far more purer, more connected to who you would be interacting with. So uh, you, from my personal experience, I think you don't tend to get influenced by your own filters, which otherwise may prompt you to have your own perception. So I think several benefits on that when you feel, okay, I'm not the doer. So therefore, this question.
That's interesting because when it comes to the competency of embodying a coaching mindset, what does it actually mean to embody it? Because when you're judged on your recordings, there is nothing that directly indicates that you're hitting that competency, right? Right? It's indirectly assessed. It's
Correct.
this vague abstract thing.
Correct.
And that makes it all the more important because it's easy for coach training schools to skip it because you
Right.
can't really train people on that directly.
Often gets ignored. Yes. Yes. But I think that's an underlying the foundational aspect of you being an impactful coach. It's more about you. It's more about your who you are at the end of the day. And it's, which is what I feel makes this session interesting to me.
What else is coming up for you all? Just looking at the chat, relaxed, calm, letting go, non-judgmental, in the moment. Now, we talked about two things here. We talked about you being alive, and we talked about your ability to notice things. What about your ability to think? Because that often gets in the way of your coaching, right? We think thoughts that are about ourselves sometimes when the client is telling whatever is important for them. And we tend to know that those thoughts are about the client and not about ourselves. Like somebody was telling me recently, um, I'm having this thought that, oh, what do I ask next? Where do we go from here? I told them, okay, that is great. You have a question. Where do you go from here? Do you have that question for yourself or for the client? Because if it's for the client, there's no point in wondering about it. If it's for yourself, there's no point in thinking about it. So when you're in this space where you're noticing and you're alive, obviously, and a thought comes up, what does it mean to embody a coaching mindset? And often what we hear is, oh, control your thinking. Don't think it. Don't make it about yourself. Be on the client's agenda. Great points, but how? Because if you start controlling your thinking, that will become a full-time job very quickly. So what else can you do? I'm not giving you the answer. I'm posing the question for you to reflect on and notice what's coming up for you. Who are you being in that moment when you have thoughts that are interfering in your coaching? And you know what? Let's make it bigger than that. Who are you being when you have thoughts that are interfering in your conversations with your partner or your children? Let's say you're in an argument and you have thoughts that are interfering in between you and your partner, and you're no longer listening to what they're saying. Who are you being in that moment? Because who you're being there is also who you're being in a coaching conversation. So embodying a coaching mindset clearly has a lot to do with you than about how you are just in that coaching session. Because if you embody it, you embody it. Wherever you have a body, you'll have that. And you have a body everywhere. So you will be like that everywhere. And when those thoughts come in, what if we directed our attention back to what we know are already effortless? What if we directed our attention back to our breathing? That is a technique, right? But I'm not giving you a technique. I'm asking you to notice something about that technique that makes it work. It's not the noticing your breathing that works. It is the fact that breathing is effortless and noticing is effortless is what works. And when you do that, you end up in this really nice feeling. People are talking about calm, people are talking about gratitude, people are talking effortless. Sarika said effortless. And I hope she's not saying that because that's the title. It actually feels effortless. Let's say you're feeling really effortless and calm and grateful, and you have somebody arguing with you in a fight with you. What do you think will happen with them? How long do you think they can keep throwing a fit? How long do you think your clients can go on ranting about what's going on in their life? Not for long. Not for long, because all of that takes effort, and what you are embodying is effortless. And life always flows towards the effortless. And I'm not giving you any techniques, right? I'm not saying meditate or journal. That's not the point. I want you to see something without you having to do anything, something that's already happening. I just want you to see it and notice how effortless that is. Even right now in this session, it is effortless for you to just listen and see. It is effortful for you to start thinking, start questioning, start wondering where this is going. All of that takes effort. It's not going anywhere. It doesn't need to go anywhere because everything you need is already there within you, which is the fundamental presupposition of coaching. There's nothing that you need outside of yourselves. But unless you see that within yourselves, you cannot help your clients realize that. And so, as great as your coaching skills are, and as many credentials as you might get because your exams get passed, in real life, the impact that you have with your clients is always limited by how much you've gone deep within yourself. And obviously that has ripple effects on your income, that has ripple effects on your referrals, that has ripple effect on how much you enjoy the coaching session. So what I'm proposing to you all is being a coach is not about learning the skills of coaching that you get trained on and that you get assessed on. That is all coaching as a thing to do as opposed to consulting or mentoring. What I'm talking about is about being a coach. And you know what else happens when you are connected with yourself in this way, when you are feeling what you're feeling here, when you're noticing these effortless things about your own life, you almost become invisible. In that conversation, you do not exist. Somebody said that's the ego speaking, right? That ego shuts up. And when that ego doesn't speak, there's no reason for you to speak. Then there's no reason for you to offer any advice because you know the answer to the client's problem. Because that is an ego's need. Hey, you know what? To me, I know the answer. Let me tell you. Maybe you do know the answer, but you don't know the answer. You know an answer. You don't know the answer that works for them. See how almost every competency is being touched. When you shut up, when your ego shuts up, and you're in this really nice feeling, nice space, loving, grateful, calm, you don't have any problem listening. Why would you not listen? Active listening is taken care of. Of course, you listen. And if you notice something that the client is doing and it piques your curiosity, you will share that as an observation. Of course, the only reason why you would not share it is because either you judge it to be irrelevant or you're afraid that the client might think something of you. Neither of which would happen when you're in this nice space, because this space is filled with love. And when there is that feeling of love and indifference, there's no fear, there's no insecurity. When there's no fear and insecurity, there is no performance pressure. There is no need to be impactful. And that is exactly when you will be impactful. That's the paradox. Okay, I'm going to pause there. What are you hearing? What is resonating with you? What's coming up for you? I want to give it back to you guys. And raise your little digital hand and go ahead and share. Yes, Vikram.
So what's coming up to me in terms of my own learning is that I'm showing it by my hands as to what is coming up to me. Totally be there, nothing else. Shut every signal that is coming to you from any other senses other than what you are listening to and what you are observing. And another understanding that I am getting, and I want a confirmation about that, is when you said the third way of listening is insight. So after hearing what you have heard, that pause is the period that gives you insight. Am I right in saying that?
That pause doesn't give you insight. That pause gives you enough place to look inside and see something.
All
And
right.
when you
So
see,
the processing happens in that period and something comes up from there. Okay. Right. Thanks.
Sunita, go ahead.
What's coming up for me is just being and letting go of everything else, like all agendas. Body, mind is present, and I allow the higher force to work through me. And there's no me at all. I mean, that's how I can describe it in words. There's no nothing. I'm nobody. And there is just, that life force that you talked about. Call it prana, whatever. That is doing its work through me, using my body and mind. Because before each conversation, if I could just let go of whoever I am, and not just in a coaching conversation, like you said, at the start of each day, if I could just remind myself, who am I going to be today? Just like how we have a to-do list. Yeah, these are some things that we can. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Something I want to add to what you just shared in terms of being present and letting go of everything else. This whole concept of coaching presence, I think it's kind of a misnomer. We are always present, right? The difference is, what are we present to? Are we present to ourselves? Are we present to the person we're talking to? Are we present to something that's happening around our environment? Are we present to some memory that's creeping in? Or are we present to the fact that we are always present? That's where the trick is. How about be present to the fact that you are always present? Then you are always present. Because it is a fact. Quick thumbs up if that makes sense. What else is coming up? Yes, Kavita.
I could resonate with you have an answer, but not the answer. So from last few months, it has been very tough for me whenever, especially if I know the answer, I'm fighting with myself from giving that answer to the client. And every time I pause myself for few minutes or sometimes even few seconds, I could see the most beautiful answer coming from the client. So yes, it has been a tough battle for me, but thank you for saying it. I didn't know how to put it in words, but you gave the right phrase. You have an answer, not the answer. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. I hope that makes it more effortless for you and there's no battle in the next session.
Definitely, yes. Thank you.
Cool. Yes, Deepti.
So what comes up for me is continuously working on myself. The deeper I go within myself, the more expanded and the more spacious I'm going to feel. And eventually I'll just end up being effortless everywhere. So that's what I'm taking away from this. And that's what I felt while you were talking.
Yeah. And you're right. And I want to expand on that. And I'll come to you in a bit, Sabjot. The deeper you go, the more expansive you will be and the more effortless you will become everywhere. Is not actually true. You are already that. You are already very expansive and very effortless. We are just used to putting in effort and not noticing the effortlessness. You don't need to go deep to notice the fact that you have a life that is working effortlessly without you doing much. You don't need to go deep to notice the fact that you have the capacity to notice whatever you want effortlessly. It's just that our minds are very busy and we're not used to noticing these things. It is effortless because there is no effort required in terms of going deeper either. It's already the case.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
Sanju, go ahead.
So the thought that's coming up for me is that when we are moving to the state of being effortless or noticing or letting go, what we know, what we say intuition, that also begins to build. So when I've heard or I experience this, that if I'm in that state when I'm not trying to control, or if I'm conscious, not conscious also, I'm just letting go, I'm just there, then that intuitive element works more and works better. And I don't know, but I think that it also comes, I notice it especially when I'm with my children. So, when I'm there without any agenda. So sometimes even when I look into their eyes, I can make out, what's going on in their heads. And I think that also somewhere comes into the coaching space, that if you're being effortless, somewhere that intuitive energy also begins to spring up.
Yeah. You shared a very interesting point around intuition. I'm going to connect it back to what someone shared earlier. Sunita was sharing, I'm not there, there's a higher force that's operating through me. What do you think your job as a coach is? It's a question I'm not expecting an answer, but ask yourself the question, what do you think your job as a coach is? For everybody, not just for Saraju. Because the way I see it, again, it depends. My job as a coach is to get the client wherever they want to get to. Right? Those are all very transactional level answers. But in terms of what is actually happening inside a series of sessions, as a coach, my job is to connect with the energy behind life, the energy that runs the universe. If you can call it God if you're a religious person, you can call it just energy if you're a spiritual person, or you can call it physics if you're an atheist. Whatever it is that is running the universe and that's beating my heart without me instructing it to do so, my job is to tap into that and help the client tap into that, because it's their life, they have to live it, and there is no guidance anywhere outside of them to tell them how to live it the right way, because there isn't one. So people come in with huge challenges, life-changing decisions, not just for their own lives. Somebody comes in and tells me, should I fire this vice president or should I not? I can't make that decision for them. That's somebody's life. Should I quit this job and start a business? Should I put my father through the cancer treatment? These are real coaching conversations I've had. Again, for the third time, the cancer has come back. What should I do? Big decisions, huge impact. As a limited human being, I don't know the answer. But how will I help my client? The only way I can help them is for them to connect to the best version of themselves, tap into their intuition, and get the answer for themselves. The higher level of clients you're working with, the more deeper the challenge is, or the bigger their step forward is, the lesser you'll have this feeling of, oh, I have an answer that I can give, because you'll be clueless. The only resort that you can take is to tap into that sense of a higher self and help them tap into that sense for themselves. Then you are not doing much, right? You're the least important person. Them and their relationship with that aspect of themselves, which is larger than themselves. The session will be about that. What else is coming up? Yes, Sunita.
Where what came up is when we're able to do that, we don't need a lot of time. We don't need 1 hour. We might just need 15 minutes or 20 minutes, or even that quick emergency call that we offer to a client. Even that should do.
That's an interesting point. What does that tell me? That tells me that there's no rule that I need to coach for 1 hour, or there's nothing that tells me that a 1 hour session is better than a half an hour session. What that dispels is the myth that you can't go deep enough in 20 minutes. I've had a coaching session for 15 minutes 3 years ago. I remember it very distinctly because that person wrote the foreword for my book. That 15-minute conversation was so impactful for that person that he decided to write a foreword. I only asked one question in that entire 15 minutes. But it changed the trajectory of their life. That also means that your clients are not paying you for your time. I see some nods. I see some reflection. I hope those who are not on video are also reflecting. What else is coming up? Okay, let me ask you this question. What is the most important question that you want to get answered right now? Think of that. What is the most important question you need to get answered? If you have one, come on. You know what? There's either effortlessness in this silence, or there is effort in the silence. If you have nothing, the silence will actually be effortless. If you have something and you're holding yourself back, you will notice effort. If you have nothing and you're pushing yourself to ask something, you will notice effort. I'm pointing that out because you cannot be effortlessly embodying a coaching mindset in a coaching session until you're living effortlessly everywhere, until you're prioritizing effortlessness. What else is coming up?
Okay, there's a question from Vikram. He's asking how to uncover the inside of a person.
What do you mean by that, Vikram?
So what I mean is to explore the feelings and beliefs and values, how to navigate towards that space. The reason I'm asking is from completing my hours for ACC to move towards PCC. That's what we are getting to know in our conversation with our mentors. So this question is what is coming to me is How do I navigate towards that?
Yeah. I'm going to answer it two different ways. One from the point of view of your mentors and your PCC credential, right?
Right.
So the competency probably uses the words like beliefs and values. So you can go there by asking a question that is about their beliefs and values. So all of this is contextual, right? Don't make it like a one question to ask in all coaching sessions.
Right.
But let's say somebody is in a conflict, they don't know what decision to make. You can ask them what values of yours are in conflict here.
Okay.
Right? That's how you change the conversation to a values-based conversation.
Right.
So that's one. The way I would approach it is very different. I wouldn't go into beliefs and values. Not anymore. I stopped doing that, I think, a good 4 years ago. I look at the first principles, the more fundamental things. So beliefs, values, these are all nice psychology theories.
Right.
And they're true. They're true in their own sense. But
Right.
they are not ontologically true. Ontologically true in the sense that they are not, in mathematics and logic, there is this concept of a tautology. A tautology is a self-evident truth that doesn't require a proof outside of itself. Any theories that we develop as an endeavor of science are not tautologies. They are theories that are verified with proof. They need some other proof to verify them. Tautology is a self-evident.
You have to explain it a little more.
Okay, I will. Okay, I'm going a little technical here.
Yeah.
But if I tell you that you are alive, what proof do you need to believe that?
Right.
That is a tautology. It is basically a self-evident truth.
Self-evident truth. Okay.
Right? If I tell you that you are wearing a brown color shirt, the proof for that is somebody has to verify and say, even you have to verify and tell me yes or no. Right? If I bring a colorblind person, they would probably tell me a different color.
Right.
So that requires external proof. That's not self-evident. Beliefs and values are like that. They've developed through external proofs. Fundamental facts about reality are not like that. You exist is not a belief. You exist is a fact. To deny that, you first need to exist. You have the capacity to notice. You can't deny that, because to deny that, you first need to notice it. That's what we talked about till now. So there are certain fundamental things. You have the capacity to think, Vikram. To think what? To think anything, but you have the capacity to think. You can't deny that. So these three are self-evident first principles that are true for all human beings across the planet. Now, if you keep thinking that same thought too many times and it becomes indistinguishable from reality for you, we call it a belief. If you keep thinking that same thought enough number of times and you decide to live your life according to that thought, that will become a value. Right? Or an ideal. An ideal is what a value is. For me, it's just a thought that you're thinking.
So you were saying that your approach will be very different. So what kind of question comes up to you?
I'll answer that at a deeper level than the way you asked it. Because when you started off, how do I take the client to their beliefs and values? I wouldn't come with that question at all. I don't care about taking them to their beliefs and values.
Right.
All I care about is for them to connect to that part of themselves where they do not have questions anymore. They only have answers.
So is it possible to demonstrate that a bit?
Well, we have 3 minutes left. So probably not in these 3 minutes.
Right. So
but maybe we can have a different conversation, or maybe Sunita can host another masterclass just for that.
Right. Sure. Appreciate that.
I mean, related to that, I do have a question, which is the client might be coming with a very different expectation of what
that coaching session might turn out. With your approach, I'm also curious, and maybe this is offline or for a future conversation. How do you get the client to go in with you? In other words, going deep into themselves, to connect that part of themselves where they find answers and not questions. How do we prepare them to walk on a path that probably they never expected to?
Yeah. You have a proper enrollment conversation. If you're signing the client up directly by yourself, you set the expectations right in terms of what they want and what you can offer. If it's a client that's given to you through an organization where you don't have much say in enrolling, then you have a conversation and see where they are, at what pace they are going. Now, you can change the direction of your questioning. What I just told Vikram about how you can ask a values question, and suddenly the conversation is not about what's happening, it's about what values the client has. Right? Similarly, you can ask a question that says, who are you being right now? I remember one coaching session a couple of weeks ago where I said, in this whole conversation, who are you being? And this person responded, I am being somebody who wants to go to this higher being and is all there. And the conversation became a very spiritual conversation. It started off as a business conversation. Again, these are things that you have to judge whether to ask or not, depending on where the client is in that conversation, and also your relationship with the client. How much rapport is there? Does that help? Anu? Cool. We are on time. Sunita, maybe you want to take back
Just one last question.
Yes.
Rakesh had posted this quite some time back. He's asking, being in effortless state, does it come by practice or is it natural? And I remember this is something that you talked about some time back, but maybe if you could share again.
It is natural. If you ask me, it is natural. It doesn't feel natural and it feels like it needs practice because for so many decades of our lives, we practiced not being effortless. That is why now it looks like it takes practice, but it's not actually true. It doesn't take much practice. It takes the same amount of practice that it would take if, let's say, you are driving to your office every morning in a city like Bangalore or Hyderabad, and it takes an hour and bad traffic and pollution to go there, and then suddenly you discover a much scenic route that takes you 20 minutes. The amount of practice it takes for you to take the new route is the amount of practice it takes to be effortless. Hope that answers.
Yes, you answered it. I was curious to know. Thanks.
Thanks, Rakesh. Cool. We don't have more. Thank you, Pooja. Thank you, Anand. Sure, Anand, thank you. Okay, Sunita, maybe we can close this conversation for today.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanking you from on behalf of all of the coaches who are present here. Gratitude to you, and I'm happy to host another conversation with you to demonstrate, like Vikram had requested. Yeah.
Or we can talk offline as well, Vikram.
Sure.
Like, always connect and discuss what that looks like.